Thank you, Steve, for the warm words. Mayor Annise Parker, David Gans, President of JINSA, Tom Newman, Executive Director of JINSA, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. I want to open my talk with a confession. It's the first time I'm in the great state of Texas. And it is my first time to meet with JINSA Group in your home turf in the United States. Because during the last 10 years, I've met with many JINSA people who came to Israel. I met them as head of Shin Bet, the Israeli security agency, as the Minister of Homeland Security, as a member of the Knesset. I think around 20 people in each delegation, twice a year. 10 years, it brings me to around 400 people that I had the honor to brief them about the Middle East in general and the state of Israel and its security problems in particular. And it was a privilege to talk with those professionals, real professionals in security. And Steve Pomerantz, who was always behind those delegations, but with them, I thank you very much for getting the honor to talk here in Houston in front of the people who are the background and the supporters of the whole JINSA project. And you know that a request from Steve is not just a request. It's even more than an honor. I think it's a great honor, and thank you, Steve, for giving me the opportunity to talk here to the people who are doing the real job behind and to push forward the people of JINSA to come to Israel and to share what we can share with them. And I do believe that the more you share, the more you have. So thank you, Steve, for it. And now to business. And now to business, and you know, the business in our neighborhood is how to pull out the wagon of peace from the mud it is stuck in for so many years. And it seems that the wagon is on the move. We see ceremonial pictures of summits, leaders shaking hands and making statements that within a year we will have peace in the Middle East. We want to believe that that peace is around the corner. But my friends, we are serious people. We know something about security. We know something about reality. And unfortunately, we know something about reality of dealing with the Palestinians. You know, the mathematics in the Middle East apparently works different. We had 3 enemy states: Egypt, Jordan, Syria. We've signed a peace agreement with 2, Jordan and Egypt, and today we have 4 enemy states. We have Syria, we have Lebanon, practically ruled by Hezbollah, the terror organization. We have Gaza Strip, conquered by terror organization of Hamas. And we have Iran, that behind being the sponsor and the pusher of those 2 proxies is an enemy state by itself. There's been for years a heated debate in Israel and maybe not only in Israel, about one-state solution for two people or two-state solution for two people. But there's no way that Israel will accept a situation of three states for two peoples. And we cannot accept the current reality of Palestinian Authority ruling the West Bank as one entity, with the Iranian proxy Hamas terror organization who rules the Gaza Strip as a second entity, and the state, the Jewish state of Israel, is in between. You know, English and Hebrew are very clear and simple languages. We say what we mean, and we mean what we say. When we say words like yes or no, or ken or lo in Hebrew, we know what that means. When we said yes to Egypt about the Sinai Peninsula, we knew what that meant. When Egypt said yes about the peace with Israel, we knew what that meant as well. The last 17 years have taught us, however, that Palestinian Arabic can be a bit different. When the Palestinian leader Mahmoud Abbas is asked a difficult question, does he intend to dismantle the Hamas terrorist infrastructure in Gaza, he doesn't say yes. He doesn't say no. He just answers, leave the problem of Gaza to us. We understand what he says, but we don't know what he means. I would call that the culture of Yani. Remember the word Yani. Yani is an interesting word in Arabic. There's no translation in English, nor in Hebrew, and maybe not in any other language. But I need to demonstrate what it means by a slight personal story. A few years ago, when Shimon Peres, the current president of the State of Israel, was the Minister of Foreign Affairs, he had a meeting with 3 Palestinian leaders. At that time, terrorists from Bethlehem launched mortar shells towards Jerusalem. And the President of the United States at that time insisted that the chairman of the Palestinian Authority, Yasser Arafat, will put that arch-terrorist who is behind the mortar shells in jail. And under that pressure, the meeting with Shimon Peres started by a statement given by one of the Palestinians that that arch-terrorist is in jail. So Shimon Peres called me. I was head of Shin Bet at that time. And he said, Avi, the man is in jail. And I knew he is not in jail from very accurate information. But you know, Shimon Peres calls you, you go. So I came to attend the meeting, and the chairman of the Legislative Council of the Palestinian Authority said, Avi, the man is in jail. I said, I'm sorry, we have precise information, he is not in jail. So he looked towards the special assistant of Yasser Arafat, and he told him, isn't he in jail? And he said, definitely. Trust me, he had no idea whom we are talking about. But both looked towards my counterpart, the man who is in charge of a security agency in the West Bank. And if that arch-terrorist is in jail, so the only person who was supposed to put him in jail was that man. And they asked him, isn't he in jail? And he was in a catch, because he knew he's not in jail. More than that, he knew that I know that he is not in jail. And above all, he knew that I know that he knows that he is not in jail. So they asked him, isn't he in jail? And he said the word for such occasions. Many people attended the meeting, I see. So when Abbas says, leave the dismantling of the terrorist infrastructure in Gaza for him to deal with, he basically is saying Yani. Because Yani means he will dismantle the infrastructure. But Yani means he's not going to do it. And Yani means anything in between, take your pick. And just to make sure that we know what kind of Gaza Strip we are talking about, I'm speaking about an area from where during the last 8 years, 10,000 rockets were launched towards Israel. 10,000 rockets. And during the last 3 months, that I'm sure that everybody will say it's a very peaceful term and a very quiet time. So just during the last 3 months, 80 rockets were launched towards Israel from the Gaza Strip. And this, after 3 years ago, Hamas terror organization conquered the Gaza Strip in a military coup, while at the same time in Gaza Strip, 15,000 security men of the Palestinian Authority headed by Mahmoud Abbas were in Gaza Strip but did nothing in order to foil that military coup that started and finished within 3 days. Chairman Abbas and his Prime Minister Salam Fayyad haven't visited to the Gaza Strip since the beginning of 2007, means more than 3 years and a half. So when they say, leave Gaza for us to deal with, I would accept such an answer if the chairman of the Palestinian Authority would accept a similar answer given by the Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu about the settlements in the West Bank. Leave the issue of the settlements to the Israeli leaders to deal with. And Israeli leaders have shown that when we want to deal with the settlements, and when we said that we are going to dismantle settlements, we didn't mean Yani. Because we dismantled just 5 years ago tens of settlements from Gaza Strip and Samaria area in the West Bank. More than 10,000 people, civilians, took out from these areas, and thousands of soldiers and other military bases. We haven't left in Gaza Strip not even one person, neither soldiers nor civilians. The only Israeli that's still in Gaza is our soldier Gilad Shalit. And we are committed to bring him back in one way or another, by a military operation if it will be able, or by a tough deal that we know is going to be a painful deal. But we will bring Gilad Shalit back home. But in order to really pull the wagon out of that mud, we need to build a whole new level of trust between the two leaderships. Because the settlement moratorium is not a strategic issue, but rather a purely tactical one. The way to build such trust is when both sides will take real steps. The Palestinians need to build or to fight the terrorists in both areas, West Bank and Gaza Strip. And we, Israel, we need to dismantle illegal outposts. And this would be a foundation that we could build a productive framework for negotiations upon. Unfortunately, the Palestinian Authority does not have the capabilities to deal with the fighting against Hamas terrorists in Gaza on its own today. This is the role that the Arab countries, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and mostly Egypt, can and should play in order to help bring back the Palestinian Authority to govern in Gaza. Israel insists to deal with all Palestinian land as one entity. We want to deal with one Palestinian partner that has one law and has one gun, a small but one gun. And the Arab Peace Initiative could provide such a solution to the whole region, including the Palestinian Authority. I support that approach of a regional peace that for Israel could create a whole new reality, a new level of security, including on our northern border, starting with Syria. Lebanon might be next. The nuclear bomb being built by Iran creates now a window of opportunity to start such a dialogue between Israel and the Arab countries. Because the Iranian bomb represents many threats against Israel, but not only against Israel. Egypt, Jordan, Saudi Arabia, and some other Arab countries are threatened by the nuclear bomb not less than Israel. And you know, sometimes a threat of long-range missiles with nuclear warheads can create good neighbors, but don't try it at your homes. But seriously, while dealing with such issues as a settlement moratorium and summits, etc., we cannot allow ourselves to take our eyes off the ball, or better yet, to take our eyes off the bomb. All the while we are speaking, Iran is continuing on its path towards a nuclear bomb. Some leaders have argued that Mahmoud Ahmadinejad, the Iranian president, is rational, is a rational member. Many others believe otherwise. I think that after we have heard his recent statement here in the United States last month, especially that 9/11 was an American conspiracy to support the American economy, I think that this debate can be put to rest. This is the man. These are his views. And my friends, an insane country with a devastating bomb is a recipe for disaster. Therefore, all options to stop Iran must be on the table. Iran must be stopped from reaching that bomb. Any leadership in Israel must take seriously Ahmadinejad's threats to destroy the state of Israel and to expel the Jews to their original land. But I just want to make it clear. I'm not going back to Poland. The country my parents left after the Holocaust as the last survivors of a large family. And I'm not going back to the shtetl of my family that was totally destroyed. And I'm not going back to the Jewish community that no longer exists there. We all should know that the era that Jews are being slaughtered just because they are Jews is over. This is the first time in our history as a nation that we face an existential threat in Israel. And my friends, Israel's security forces might not always be the best in the open field, but put our backs against the wall, and we can even beat the Houston Texans. If dealing with the Iranian issue involves many countries, including the superpowers led by the United States, the Israeli-Palestinian conflict will only be solved by a direct talks between the two states or the two sides. And the most sensitive issue in those discussions will be, of course, Jerusalem. To such discussions, we need to arrive after building a whole new level of trust between us and the Palestinians, as I mentioned before. Opening any peace talks with Jerusalem is a guaranteed recipe for failure. And I would prefer to talk about the importance of Jerusalem through a personal story. It's the story of 3 stones. In one of my visits to the North America, I visited an office of my very good friend, and I saw on his desk a plate of glass, and on it 2 stones. In the front of the plate, it was written, "Never again." Answering my question, my friend said that one of the stones he got from a friend who came back from a visit in Auschwitz. The second stone he brought by himself in a visit to Masada in Israel. I told my friend, in Auschwitz, in the Holocaust, we've lost 6 million of the Jewish people. They had no country to defend them. In Masada, 2,000 years ago, Jews decided in the end all to take their own lives rather than to be taken as slaves by the Romans. So I told him there is 1 stone missing here. A few months later, I brought him the 3rd stone. "Where did you bring it from?" he asked me. And I said, "From Jerusalem, from the Wailing Wall tunnels. The place Jews were exiled 2,000 years ago, and ever since, they've been praying, L'Shana Haba b'Yerushalayim, next year in Jerusalem, for 2,000 years, year after year." In 1967, the Jewish people returned to the place where we started our journey. I gave him the stone. I told him, "That's the stone of our resurrection. That's the stone of our revival." He took the stone with his shaking hands, kissed it, placed it next to the other 2, and cried. So, my friends, I want to make it very clear. Jerusalem will never return to the borders of 1967. לשנה הבאה בירושלים, next year in Jerusalem. Thank you very much.